Hey there, Super Friends. It's Joey with Last Point Gaming. Today is Wednesday, April 25th, 2018. Apologies ahead of time. The audio quality on this one may be pretty bad. Yesterday, I broke my mic. It snapped off the clip. And I was going to try to rig it this morning, but no. So, yeah, you're probably picking up a lot of car noise. Plus, it's raining, so my windshield wipers are on, and my brakes are wet, so they're making noise. But anyway, figure we'll give it a shot. And I ordered a new mic this morning, so I should have probably ordered it last night. I wasn't really thinking. So it's supposed to be here on Friday. If I listen to this one and the audio quality is like super bad on it, I guess I will either forego recording until I get a new mic, or actually put the effort into trying to rig the one I have for now. So, yesterday did kind of a response piece. I'm really not sure what to qualify that as. Talking about the professor's video from yesterday and, you know, the community and whatnot. I also pushed the this Planeswalker's origin story episode to YouTube for any of my listeners that only listen through YouTube, because I do know I have a couple that's the only way they connect with this, and since it had to do with the cast I did yesterday. But have a kind of, I feel it's an important thing to talk about today, and that's a ruling. So, this came up between the captain and I. Luckily, it was between the captain and I have not been running around misinforming other players at the pre-release on Saturday. I'd always been under the impression that a creature was only affected by summoning sickness when it moved to the battlefield from a different zone, like from the hand, or returns from exile, or returns from graveyard, or, you know, whatever. But apparently this is not, in fact, correct. It's summoning sickness is defined, well, the ruling is 302.6 and states that a creature cannot tap to activate their own ability or attack if it has not been under your control since the beginning of your most recent turn. So the thing that brought it up is Boo had a creature enchanted with on Sarah's Wings. The captain hit it with In Bolus's Clutches and took it. And he didn't attack that combat. And I thought that was weird. And I thought, okay, maybe he's holding it back to, like, block one of our other big creatures, because then he can essentially 3-for-1 us. You know, because he'll get to, if he can trade with the attacker, he gets to kill our attacker, kill his blocker, but it's our creature, plus the On Sarah's Wings enchantment. Well, I had a Broken Bond in hand. So I hit the In Bolus's Clutches with the Broken Bond. Now, that's sorcery speed, so I did it on our turn. We got it back. We sent it into combat, and he said, no, it's summoning sick. And I'm like, no, that only applies if it's left the battlefield. And if it left the battlefield and re-entered, then the On Sarah's Wings enchantment would have fallen off. Clearly, I know what I'm talking about. And the captain was like, you know what, whatever, it's fine. They ended up winning anyway, so this actually really didn't have any real impact on anything. But, yeah, I've been wrong about that for 20 freaking years. And, I don't know, I never really, looked it up or anything, because I never had a reason to. So last night, one of the groups I'm in, I think it was actually on the MTGO Traders group, somebody asked about the same interaction, and somebody replied and said, yeah, if the creature has not been under your control since the start of your turn, then it's, summoning sick. And I was going to get on and be like, no, that's not correct. But I was like, all right, well, let me look up the ruling so I can share the exact ruling and everything. And I go searching through the rules text, through the Judge Core app. The only reference I can find is in this Rule 302.6, and it does not address control changing hands. So I asked husband, I'm like, because we had talked about it when it happened, we talked about it when Boo and I got home Saturday, and, he seemed to be under the same impression I was. So I'm like, am I crazy, or did you say that this was correct? And he was like, yeah, as I've always understood. Now, I've mentioned this before, but husband used to be an arena judge back when that was the thing. So, it's not like he's just backing me up. No, he has a good understanding of the rules. Not some of the newer rules changes, back in the day, if you tapped a creature, like a blocking creature in combat, to activate an ability or an effect, it received combat damage, but it didn't deal its combat damage. It basically huddled on the battlefield, channeling its spell, while something, slammed it with a phone. That's a Better Off Ted reference. If you're not familiar, that probably sounded really fucking weird. Anyway, so there have been rules changes that he's less familiar with because it's changed since he got out of actively, competitively playing and everything. So I reached out to the pirate captain, not to be mistaken for the captain, and I asked him. He's one of the L2s that I've become acquainted with, and I've been leaning on Zach less and less because Zach has a lot of stuff going on in his life right now, and, I don't want to put any other stress on him. So, the pirate captain is, usually who I have been reaching out to more recently. But, I reached out to him and I asked him, and he quoted the same Rule 302.6. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, I have been wrong about that for pretty much the entire time I've been playing Magic. Now, luckily, it actually rarely comes up. Because cards like Active Treason, which is the only one I can think of off the top of my head, Hijack is another one, I guess. One, they usually only steal a creature until end of turn. So, of course, they give it haste, and I always thought that it gave it haste in case its owner had just summoned it, therefore it was affected by summoning sickness. So you weren't limited on your target by, oh man, I want their big 5/5 that they just cast, but it's summoning sick, so that's going to be a waste. I guess I'll take their 3/3 and run it into their 5/5. But no, it turns out it's actually important when you only get the creature for till the end of the turn that it have haste, otherwise it is a completely useless card. So, in recent history, there are only a handful of cards I can think of that, just permanently steal a creature. One is like Kefnet's Last Stand or something like that. It's the Kefnet card that it's pretty cheap for what its ability does, but the catch is that your lands don't untap during your next untap phase. That permanently stole a creature, Confiscation Coup, and now this Embolus's Clutches. So, because I like to think that I have a fairly decent understanding of the game, and I've been wrong about this forever, I felt the need to, really go over this one, and make sure any of you that listen are aware that, that is in fact how that works. And again, if it comes up and somebody questions you, the actual rule is Rule 302.6. So, there's that one. Also, a lot of the stuff that came up at the pre-release was related specifically to Two-Headed Giant, because we are doing the Two-Headed Giant pre-release, which isn't really a competitive format, which is why I haven't really talked about, like, interesting rule stuff that came up. But I'm going to go over it because I don't know if, like, I don't know if you ever play Two-Headed Giant not at a pre-release. Like, if that's a legal F&M format, or if, so, this may be a little bit late, but that, what is it, Baird? It's a legendary white creature for 2 and 2 white, 2/4 with vigilance. Your opponents have to pay 1 for each creature attacking you or a planeswalker you control. So it's, I want to say it's suppression bonds, because there's an old card that did, maybe Ghostly Prison is the one I'm thinking of. Anyway, there's an old card that did this on a stick now. In Two-Headed Giant, while it's generally shortcutted that you're just attacking the team, you do actually attack a player. They can still block as a team, but this card is not good in Two-Headed Giant. Well, I mean, it's still a 2/4 vigilance for 4, so, I mean, it's a good blocker and maybe a good attacker. But that second ability doesn't mean that the opposing team can't attack you at all. So, this is another one the captain and I discussed, and I ended up looking up the ruling through an MTG Familiar. It's actually already there. Probably because there have been other cards like this, and this is needed clarified in the past. Oh my god, get out of my way. But again, I don't know how pertinent that is now, because the Dominaria pre-release is in fact over, and pretty sure that's like the only time Two-Headed Giant like happens in organized play. But if you play casually and you know, want to make sure you're following all the rules and whatnot, there you go. What else? I think that's about it on that score. Yeah, the whole summoning sick thing, like, really screwed with my chi last night. Because, well, I mean, not only did I actually fight with the captain about it, and I was like, no, you're wrong. And he wasn't. But, I don't know, being, like, that off on what should be such a low-level ruling really bothers me. But I did apologize to the captain. I hate having to apologize to the captain, but he was nice about it. He was like, yeah, I figured you'd eventually look it up, and it wasn't worth fighting over at the time. So, oh man, I'm like totally running out of things to talk about. I am more awake than usual, well, than I had previously been in the mornings. Despite the rain. Usually the rain makes me really tired. So, there are some really neat decks I can see coming up out of Dominaria. I don't know how competitive they'll be, but being that I pretty much only play Standard during Standard Showdown at this point, I'm not looking for something super competitive. Looks like there's 2 new tribes arising out of Dominaria that look pretty viable and actually pretty fun. That being Black-Red Wizards. I already started working on a list of cards for that one. Or not Black-Red, Red-Blue Wizards. The other one being Black-White Knights, I think has some potential. Because there's a fair amount of the vampires from Ixalan and Rivals that are also Knights. So I think you could put together a fun deck. Plus there's the legendary 2 black-white, 4/4 vigilance, and then has 2 activated abilities. Tap 2, a white, and it to make a think it's like a 2/2 knight. Or tap a black and it and destroy target creature with power less than or equal to the number of knights you control. My Sunday pre-release. So on Sunday, Boo partnered with Rockstar, and I waited until last minute hoping Old Timer would roll in, and he did, thank God. So him and I partnered up, and I ended up running, because I mean, 4/4 Vigilant for 4 in Limited, pretty good. I even really looked too much at the other abilities. You know, paying 3 for a creature, not too bad in Limited, even if you have to tap that creature. Potholes. I mean, being able to make creatures at instant speed is always nice. But then, like, I played out my... I think I had a Knight of Malice. Not a Knight of Glory, sadly. Or Knight of Grace. And I had 2 the Banalish something commander, maybe? The one gets +1/+0 for each legendary you control. They also happen to be knights. So, game 2, I think it was. Well, round 2. Oh yeah, we got to buy the first round. I actually used that to almost, you know, over a couple turns, pretty much wipe my opponent's board. Because they couldn't really swing into my 4/4. And I started by taking out their flyers, because at first, you know, they were like, alright, we'll just attack with the flyers. And I'm like, okay, I'll tap him down and destroy that one. And Old Timer got to play the new Jin. It's like an 0/4 gets +1/+0 for each island you control. His was like a 7/4. It was a little bit crazy. So then we cut them off in the air, and then they still couldn't swing into the ground because of all the creatures I had vomited out. And yeah, every turn I'm like, alright, kill one of your dudes. So, I think that could be a pretty fun deck. I'm excited to look into it a little bit more. Also, you know, standard boggles is a possibility now. I think I saw a YouTube video. I haven't gone and watched it yet, but I think I saw it pop up in my notifications that Jim Davis did, because he was, of course, the one who did the blue-white auras before Dominaria showed up. So now there's a bunch more auras and creatures that get bonuses for auras, though they're mostly red, so we may have to shift the colors. I don't know. I think blue-red auras would be the way to go. Blue-white angel control, looking pretty solid. Though Saffron Olive put up I don't know if it was a budget deck or an against the odds deck or what classification it fell under, but he put up a deck tech yesterday. I think it was yesterday. It might have been Monday. For a mono-white prison deck in standard. Now, I don't play control. I have little to no interest at all in prison decks. But this deck looks freaking adorable. But it only runs like a couple creatures. I think it's 2 different creature cards, but I don't know how many copies of each. I know the one's only a 1 of. And they're both angels. And then it runs a bunch of planeswalkers. Oh, okay, a bunch. It runs Gideon of the Trials and Karn. I'm trying to think of what else. That deck just looks like a pile of fucking fun. I'm excited to take a closer look at that one. I think the only pricey card in it is Karn. I don't think it runs like Mox Amber. okay. You just decide that you belong in front of me. That's cool. Oh, and for Modern, yesterday he did, Saffron Olive did, this green-white Eerie Interlude deck. If I can spend less than $20 on the cards I need for it, I might actually build it. Because it just, yes, also looks like a barrel of fucking fun. Though, this one was definitely a budget deck. So his mana base was a little shitty, and he was running Land of War Elves, where he really would have benefited from Noble Hierarchs. In fact, he got boned on that a couple times, where he's, like, you know, he had a green source of mana and a Land of War Elf, and he's like, alright, we'll draw a white source. No. Whereas if that Land of War Elf had been a Noble Hierarch, it could generate white. And, yeah, I'm sure you could clean that mana base up pretty nicely. Like, you could run Temple Gardens. He was running Horizon Canopies in it, which I don't think are a terrible idea. If you're running a bunch of basics. Plus, he was running Wood Elves, which allow you, when you play them, you go grab a land out of your library and put it in the battlefield. So, yeah, but, so, I actually, sideboarded this card for a very long time in Boss Humans, even though it didn't belong in that, it wasn't supposed to be in that deck. It might have been after Boss Humans, where I was still trying to limp red-white humans along. I ran Eerie Interlude in sideboard for, like, ever. Because, well, I don't like my creatures dying, man. And, yeah, every once in a while, like, I would end up actually playing it, and somebody would be like, wow. Bad card is bad, but this is hilarious. The other thing is, especially in, like, the human synergy deck with the Thalia's Lieutenants and other humans. So, when you use an effect like Eerie Interlude, it all leaves the battlefield at the same time, and it all re-enters at the same time. So, it's kind of like scape-shifting with Valakut. The reason that they go for the kill on the scape-shift play is because all the lands will see each other enter, so they'll get a Valakut trigger for every mountain, not just after, I think it's like 5. It's the same kind of thing here. So if you have like 2 Thalia's Lieutenants and 4 other humans, everything sees each other enter. So the 2 Thalia's Lieutenants end up immediately with 2 counters on each of them for each other. And then another 4 counters for the other 4 humans. So you end up with 7 Thalia's Lieutenants. And then the other creatures all end up with 2 counters on them because they also see the Thalia's entering. So, it was a fun little combat trick. And there were times that it won me games. My opponent's like, waha! Board wipe you! And I'm like, ha ha! Interlude, bitch! And they're like, wow, just, who plays that card? Well, nobody, because it's a bad card. But, Saffron Olive even found a 5th copy of Eerie Interlude in Ghostway. So, yeah, no, that deck was cute as button. I really kind of want to put it together. He also, had a lot of great fun utility creatures, like Elvish Visionaries and Wall of Omens, to, draw him some cards, and Restoration Angels for, flickering before you start flickering. Then Eternal Witnesses, so you can infinitely loop. Always be able to get back the Eerie Interlude. Then, a green Exarch, I don't remember what it was called, but it enters the battlefield, and I think think you get to put target permanent on the bottom of its owner's library. Plus, acidic slime. I want to say that's the one. Might not be the correct name. It's 2 green and 1. And it's the slime when it enters the battlefield. I think it's destroy target artifact, enchantment, or land. But I know you can hit lands with it because that's what he was doing. So, again, with Eerie Interlude, every time you cast it and everything leaves the battlefield, it re-enters. And they all see each other re-enter, and you get all of your enter the battlefield effects again. And I think the only creature in there that didn't have enter the battlefield effects were the Llanowar Elves. And that was to help ramp your engine a little faster. So, I think that deck is exciting and fucking adorable. So I really want to build it. But I've made it to work now. So I am going to cut this one off here. Again, I do apologize if the audio quality on this one is absolute garbage. It may in fact be. But hopefully if it is, I can fix my... Well, it won't be a fix, but again, just kind of rig my mic so that I can keep using that to record. Alright, well, as always, if you made it this far with me, thank you very much for listening, and, I don't know, I may talk to you all this afternoon. I don't really know what I'm doing yet.